You give the go. Good afternoon and welcome to this regular council meeting for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. It is January 29, 2025. It is 5 p.m. and I'll call this meeting to order. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Droulard, seconded by Dryfout, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich opens at 5 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? I see none. Adoption of the draft minutes. They were included in your agenda package. Are there any errors or omissions? I see none. They will be adopted as presented to council in the agenda. Clerk Tara, are there any items not listed on the agenda?
I have none.
Okay. And we're going to wait. Well, not going to wait. We'll bring the delegation in when they get here. Let's move on to correspondence. The City of Woodstock, sustainable funding for Children's Aid Society and other child welfare agencies. Any discussion on that? I know Councillor Dryfout, you've spoken to it in the past.
Yes, I did, and I asked council to consider preparing a motion for it, and Clerk Tara did that this week, and I had a look at it. I actually sent it off to Woodstock as well to see if it was sufficient for them, and they truly appreciated the effort we're putting into this. Objectively, they're just trying to raise awareness that there's some deep concerns. And other discussions came out of that, but thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. So, okay.
Motion, please, Tara.
Moved by Dryfout, seconded by Loveland. Whereas the municipality of Dutton Dunwich recognizes the important and vital role that the Children's Aid Society and other child welfare agencies play in safeguarding and enhancing the health, well-being, and safety of our children, youth, and families throughout Ontario. And whereas the lack of access to healthcare, mental health supports, poverty reduction initiatives, and affordable housing is taking a toll on families and caregivers, causing these agencies to fill gaps in the systemic shortfalls to ensure the well-being of children, youth, and families. And whereas without sufficient financial backing, these agencies are strained to a breaking point as they operate without the ability to deny families the services they desperately need. Now, therefore, the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports correspondence from the City of Woodstock urging the province to prioritize and support the financial needs of these vital agencies, and further that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the City of Woodstock. All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the City of Peterborough requesting that 1, the provincial government be respectfully requested to amend Bill 242 to clearly define a workable standard for a shelter space for the purposes of a municipality's jurisdiction to enforce its standards regulating or prohibiting encampments in its parks and open spaces. 2, that without limitation, Bill 242 provides that a municipality will have met the standard for shelter space for the purposes of the municipality's jurisdiction to enforce its standards, regulating or prohibiting encampments in its parks and open spaces, despite the establishment and enforcement of shelter rules, including rules that prohibit drug use and other activities that could put shelter residents, workers, and volunteers at risk. And if an official designated by the municipality is satisfied that the number of available shelter spaces is at least equal to the aggregate of the number of individuals actually seeking shelter and the number of individuals against whom the municipality is planning to enforce its standards regulating or prohibiting encampments in its parks and open spaces, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the City of Peterborough. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. 7 items. I'm not going to go through them all, but does anyone wish to speak to any one of those? Go ahead, Councillor Dreyfus.
The rural economic development strategy. I think we, as an economic development committee, we discussed that the other evening. And administration need to be aware of the changes that have taken place in applying for this funding. So it's something that we're interested in through the economic development, and getting a full understanding of exactly what the strategy is going to be vital to us managing us, how we're going to write policy and so on within our own economic development or within our own municipality. So I think we had to keep this in mind because we definitely have need for this funding. And I think we have potential for this funding. We just gotta make sure we dot our i's properly and cross our t's. So I'm just raising awareness, and I'm glad we got this for this meeting. So
Thank you. I'd like to comment on the AMO policy update. Vote like the quality of your life depends on it, and AMO is quite clear with their main objectives, and we do have an election. And billions of property tax dollars are diverted each year to pay for provincial programs, driving up your tax bill. That one's kind of gets close to home. Provincial policies have left 80,000 homeless in Ontario and 1,400 encampments in public parks. Your community desperately needs provincial investment in municipal infrastructure to build more homes. So I just want to make that public. And there's one item 4, AMO policy update, the AMO 2025 pre-budget submission. AMO did submit one. I was in front of not the minister. He was there for breakfast. Minister of Finance, Bethan Falvey. His deputy was there for my presentation. I had 3 minutes, and I talked about rural healthcare and the challenges we have here, and I geared it to funding for these health teams that would help us immensely. And I've asked Tara to also submit that brief online. We've got till February 3rd or something to do that. So just to bring up council up to date, it was a long day yesterday, from breakfast to county council, county budget, and in front of the minister. Rob Flack was attended that as well. Any other comments on consent correspondence?
just a quick comment. The brief that you presented yesterday, could we be privy to that
Yes,
information?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could, if you could share that with council. please.
You have an electronic copy, she'll fire it off. It's basically very similar to what I presented to Minister Jones in Ottawa, but this was more the financial aspect of our challenges in rural healthcare.
I think it's important that we share this information with council and ultimately the community, that we are working hard behind the scenes to try and resolve some of these issues that we have even within our own municipality. I don't want people to feel like it's a witch hunt. It's more of a being prudent and trying to find solutions to problems that we have within our own healthcare system. So,
And
So I
that's why
appreciate-
I wanted to speak to that issue.
I appreciate that effort for sure.
Okay. Anything further on the consent agenda? Tara, please.
I do have 2 resolutions ready, so moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drillard, that relevant correspondence was reviewed. All in favor? And that's carried. And moved by Drillard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the items on the consent agenda be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, we're gonna backtrack. We have guests. Matt Vaughn and Blaine Parkin from Elgin County. You've seen their presentation already in our agenda, but if we could, I don't know whether you know everybody on our council or not, but let's go around the table here and starting with Deputy Mayor.
I'll do it again. Ken Loveland, Deputy Mayor.
Henry Dryfout, Counselor, Ward 2.
I'm Marilyn Strulard, Counselor Ward 2.
Corey Pemberton, Counselor Ward 1. How you doing, Matt?
James,
James Blackmore, Deputy Treasurer.
you know them. Mike Hance, Mayor. Nice to meet you.
I'm Tara Crutcher, I'm clerk.
Oh, I'm Randy Bergzat. I'm the archival records and clerk's assistant.
And she's being trained for the clerking duties. Yeah. Anyway, welcome. We kind of jumped ahead, but we have your presentation, so you have the floor.
Okay, I'll take that now. I'll first start off by apologizing for being late. The roads were not what we expected. We'll say that, very icy.
Yeah, the wind.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much for having us in and for making the time. We just wanted to come in and answer some questions about the county's centralized planning services. It's something that we've been preparing over the last few months. I've had a chance to look at your planning numbers. So I've gone back into 2023 and we put together a little bit of an estimate for what planning services would cost for Dutton Dunwich. And I thought maybe I could just kind of take you through a little bit of history and how we came up with those numbers and sort of where we're going with all of that. I don't know if I control that or if I have to prompt somebody. Okay, very good. So I'm hoping this presentation is going to cover the goals of a centralized planning system, the methodology for a phased plan. The idea there is really to bring on our local municipal partners one at a time. Review of your planning needs. We can go over the cost estimate for the planning services and what potential revenues you could generate by visiting your planning application fees. We'll go over some of those recommendations. We'll talk about forms of compensation, and then we've got some time there at the end for some discussion. So the three main goals of the centralized planning system is really cost effectiveness. The hope is that we can provide a streamlined service to Dutton Dunwich in which we'll be able to provide development planning service and policy planning service, and you'll have a whole planning department sort of at your fingertips, which is something that you haven't had in the past. Consistency is a big thing. Consistency not just here, but consistency between the policies in Dutton Dunwich and County of Elgin and across the whole county. And accountability. You'll have the ability to pick up a phone and give myself a call or Blaine if you'd really like to, if something's not going the way you were hoping it was going to go. So the nice thing about our team is that it's not just one person. We have junior planners, development planners, policy planners. Myself as the director. We have GIS resources. So the service that we'll be providing is thorough. And if the nice thing about not just relying on one person is if somebody's away or sick, there's people to cover for them, which is nice. The service would be provided in person and or virtually. So I understand that there is a request to have somebody in person, and that's something that we've estimated, put into the estimate for the service. Next slide, please. So when we put together this plan, I went out and looked at various other two-tier systems that are already doing this. There was really no point in reinventing the wheel. So we looked at some of the systems like Middlesex or Oxford County or Perth County just to see how some of those systems were working. So we looked at both two-tier systems. I also looked at some of the single tiers as well, just to make sure that all of our costs and our fees were all headed in the right direction. Then I went across all of our local municipal partners and studied all of their planning applications in the past. I really focused on the 2023 numbers because during the pandemic, there might not have been, there was a real rush of planning applications, so it got real busy for a minute and then it kind of slowed down. So the numbers are based on a year that I think represents sort of your average year. The hope is to have this service be phased in over time. So phase in the growth and strategy and really have it meet your staffing needs and your servicing needs. And of course, understanding the costs and the budget requirements. I understand this might be a little bit more expensive than what you're used to, but just trying to understand, you know, how this service fits in with your needs, and then how it can be paid for through the revenue that can be generated through your planning fees. And then, of course, we can look at different types of compensation as well. We looked at a few different forms. There's the levies, one option that we looked at. There's hourly billing, and then there's sort of that flat fee. So where we landed at the moment is a flat fee, but that's not to say we couldn't revisit some other options. The levy's a little difficult to implement right away, because in order to implement that levy, you kind of need everybody to be on board. That's not something that would probably happen right away, but it could happen in the future. So we might start with one form of compensation and then, you know, work our way towards a levy system, which from my understanding is kind of the preference by a lot of folks. Next slide, please. So, like I said, I went back and I looked at your planning needs, and I used 2023 as sort of that average year. So you had an average of 30 planning applications that year, an average of 20 pre-submission consultation meetings, and approximately 1,300 planning inquiries per year. Seems like a lot of planning inquiries, but that's the number that we got from your planner. And then, so the requirement of planning policy, so that's some of the more upper level documents that need to be revisited. So your official plan will need to go through a conformity exercise, hopefully this year, and then there'll be zoning bylaw updates that you'll want to do as well. Quite a few changes legislatively over the last 2 years, probably more changes in the last 2 or 3 years than I've seen in the last 20 years. So probably some updates that we'll need to address. Next slide, please. So the next part here is just looking at a cost estimate for planning services. And then I also looked at potential revenues for the municipality as well. My understanding at this point is that you would require some help in the planning administrative assistance. So that's estimated at around 13,000. The development planning assistance, that is, you know, looking at all the different kinds of applications you had in 2023, from subdivisions and zoning bylaw amendments, site plans, minor variances, all of those different types of applications. That was estimated at around 89,684. And so depending on the application type, so if it's something like a minor variance, that would be like a junior planner would work on that. If it's something like a subdivision, it would be more of a senior planner level. Zoning bylaws and site plans, you know, depending on the complexity of those, you know, it would either be a development planner or a senior planner. And then, of course, the work needs to be verified. That number actually does also include some GIS work. That's a different topic, but we may be able to reduce some of those numbers there, because I understand that there's already some contract GIS work going on with Dutton. So there may be some cost savings that we could talk about there. The policy planning assistance, the 64,000, that was with both the official plan and the zoning bylaw updates that would need to be done. So overall, the cost estimate was 166,982. But keep in mind, you know, there are some costs there that if they could be handled internally, we could reduce that number. So the 13,000 is one that if there would be planning admin internally that could help with, say, like taking in applications and circulating and doing all of those kinds of functions, that's a number that we could reduce or take away. And the development planning, the 89,000, like I said, that currently includes some GIS work. That might be a number that we could reduce as well, because I think there's a contract between Dutton Dunwich and the county that has some GIS work already being done. Maybe I'm wrong on that one.
split between us and Southold and West Elgin.
Okay, so there's some, so that's a different GIS person, not the county providing that. That's a different person, right? So I guess it's a conversation we could have at some point because there's no point having two people doing GIS work. And then the policy planning assistance, you know, is it something we think we're going to do the official plan and the zoning bylaw all in 1 year? It would be aggressive, especially now it's almost February. Maybe it's just the official plan that needs to be updated this year and we'll tackle the zoning next year. So that could get split in half too. So while the number looks a little big right now, I think there's some wiggle room to lower it. And then in terms of revenue, I looked at what your fees currently are across the board. I'll be honest, they're pretty low. They're not covering the cost of your staff time. So every time somebody's making an application, that's going to get eventually transferred to the taxpayers to pay that. So we would recommend that you increase your planning fees to at least cover your expenses and in planning, paying for that expense or for that service. At the moment, there's an estimated deficit at 33,000, but like I said, there are some cost savings that we could do through either the policy planning or the planning admin, where that deficit could be a surplus pretty quickly. So just some food for thought at the moment. Next slide, please. I talked a little bit about this already. The county recently just went out and studied planning fees across Ontario. So we looked at both two-tier municipalities and single-tier municipalities. We looked at maybe some of the larger municipalities within close proximity to here. So places like London, Kitchener-Waterloo. We looked at everywhere across the board because the reality is that this area is going to become quite popular for development, and you want to make sure your development fees are reflective of that. So there is an average. Our recommendation typically comes in around the average. Sometimes it's lower than the average. In some cases, it's quite higher than the average, but that's just because the current rate is so low. But with the recommended changes, like I said, just based on your 2023 numbers, you'd be looking at a revenue there of $133,000 in just a year. So there's definitely some room there where you could, at least have things paid for so that it's not costing you money for planning services. Next slide, please. Talked a little bit about forms of compensation. Where we've landed currently is at a flat fee. That flat fee is just using, simple math, looking at your applications from last year and the time. And just that's how that fee was developed. Hourly billing, it's another option. Either way, we're going to be tracking all of the time that is spent on processing all of the applications, the number of applications. We're going to be tracking all those metrics because, like I said, the estimate is just simply that. It's an estimate. It could be lower, it could be higher, and the plan is we're going to, if we overestimated, we will make adjustments next year. So the fee next year would be lower, and we will compensate for what was spent. If it's higher, which I don't expect it to be, but if it is, then we would likely have to do the same, but on the other end. Next slide, please. So yeah, that's it for my presentation. And I just thought about this. I didn't really do much of an introduction there, did I? I just sort of jumped right into it.
Oh, good.
I get really excited about planning and I just forget about, the niceties.
It's not too late for the introduction. Excited about planning, but-
Where I should have started is my name's Matt Vaughn and I'm the Director of Planning and Development with the county. And I've been with the county now for, about 6 months. About halfway through the probation, which is good news. I'm happy about that. And beside me here, Blaine Parkin, our CAO. Blaine, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Matt. Yes, my name's Blaine Parkin. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the county. We brought Matt on board following council's direction in the 2024 budget to expand our planning services, not only at the county level, but with the understanding of trying to offer planning services to our municipal partners where we can assist. So as you can see, Matt's done a lot of analysis over the last number of months, looked at a number of different models that are being used, some more successful than others. And what we believe will be a fairly successful model is what's being recommended
now. So we recognize, obviously, it's a little bit of a departure from, where things have been, but as Matt mentioned, this captures not only your day-to-day, what I'll describe as your operational planning, but also your one-off planning. So your official plan updates, your zoning bylaw updates. So that number, keep in mind that that's not an every year, expense. So actually on, the years where that type of work's not necessary, if you're still generating the type of planning activity that Matt looked at in 2023, your revenues would actually be, significantly higher than your day-to-day operational work. Right? It's only in the years where you've got that we'll call it more in-house work, the official plan update, your zoning bylaw updates, things like that, where obviously there's not a lot of revenue being generated, but because that's work that just needs to be done sort of on an internal basis. So but with that, Mayor Hens, we're here to answer any questions, and if we can't answer them today, then we'll get back to you with answers.
Okay, very good. I'm going to start it off. The fees, Matt, was there a phase in on them? Could you speak to that?
Yeah, and definitely, through the mayor to the rest of council, the idea there, at least at the county level, what we did is we phased it in over 3 years. The fees are significantly higher in some of those areas, and we recognize that. And what we don't want to do is create a shock to the development industry. So the idea is to phase those in over a 3-year time period. So a 50% increase this year, 75 up to 75 the next year, and at 100% by the year 3. And it just sort of helps to blow a little bit.
Okay, thank you. I'll open up the floor to questions. Deputy Mayor Loveland.
Thanks, Matt, for the presentation. And I guess, of course, the costs are a little higher than we all hoped for, but that's the world we're in, I guess. But you mentioned that you've got included in both a zoning bylaw update and an official plan update. And I agree with your comment you made after that. It's pretty difficult to do those the same year.
I think so.
If we were to split that up, what kind of cost reduction would we be looking at?
Yep, through the mayor, I think we're looking at splitting that policy planning cost by half. So I think it was estimated at around 64,000. That could get split in half to 32, and just splitting that in half almost brings you at a net zero. So if we were to split that in half, and like I said, if there is some help internally with the administrative side of planning, you're in a surplus situation.
Next question, I guess. So the day-to-day zoning questions, that's included in this, so.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So the day-to-day inquiries, the information that we received was you're getting on average 5 inquiries a day. So, 5 times 5 and the number of 50 times 52, you're looking at around 1,300 inquiries a year. It seems high, but if that's what you're getting, then that's what you're getting. Those take on an average from 2 minutes to 30 minutes to answer, depending on the complexity of the question. But it is something that we're going to track, because if we're finding that it's more like 1 or 2 inquiries a day, and that's pretty consistent, then we know for the next year that price could come down.
One more quick one. So if we phase our rates in, we won't be looking at 135,000 revenue this year. It'd probably be closer to 70 or 75.
Yeah, through the mayor, that's a good point. Yeah, you're right. The year 1, you are going to be looking at a little bit less. You're right.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Henson, through you. Actually, I had most of the similar questions that Ken or Deputy Mayor Loveland had. I guess a couple other questions. How long would the flat fee? So you're talking like this flat fee will be reviewed on an annual basis? So so I guess for budgeting purposes, it would be difficult to look 5 years out,
right,
to say what this would be. It would always be moving target, or is it something that we could look at, all right, on average, once we're maybe 3 years in, and take an average of that and kind of go from that direction? Or?
Yeah, through the mayor, that's probably a good way to do it. Let some time pass, kind of figure out where that lands, and then take an average. At least that'll give you a ballpark and how to budget for it. And I should add to that, through the mayor, Eventually, my hope is we can provide this service to all of our LMPs. And if we're at that point where we're providing that service to all of our LMPs, it would make sense at that point to go to a levy type payment system. And that would be easier for everybody's budgets.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree with that. Other municipalities that are looking at joining on, my understanding is it's essentially the three in the west right now that are eager to look at this. So with your policy planning assistance, again, you answered the question of that could be divided in half if we're not doing it every year. When you're looking at doing it, would you be looking at kind of consolidating the three zoning bylaws into something a little bit more cohesive between the three of them? Because I've dealt with all three of them and they're kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
In that. So is that something that would be looked, and I understand that would be at council's discretions and things like that, but would that be somewhat of the end goal, is to try and get them more similar?
Yeah, through the mayor, absolutely. The nice thing about having, the same planning team working on all three zoning bylaws is you will find consistency between all three zoning bylaws. With the, obvious exception where it's council's decision. Council here may decide they want something a little different that has more of the Dutton Dunwich character, and that's completely fine. That's where you make those kinds of changes in the zoning bylaw. And I think we could approach official plans the same way in the future as well, where there's more consistency between all of the official plans. Or, going off on a limb a little bit, maybe there's one official plan for the entire county, and there's a whole section for each of the LMPs in that official plan to maintain that character. Because I'll say, maintaining 7 plus a county official plan is very expensive. Maintaining one official plan that's maintained by the county and that's driven through the LMPs with their direction, much less expensive. So there's definitely some efficiencies that could be achieved. And that's really why we're here. We're just trying to find efficiencies and save everybody money and time.
That's right. And just one more question. Thanks, Mayor Hens. The rollout of this with staffing and other things, I guess, is concerning because it's not something that you can just do overnight. What's kind of the plan for, or do you have a plan for ramping up staffing and rolling this out so that there's still has that customer service that we need to offer?
Yeah, no, great question. Through the mayor. We have hired, to date, since I've started, we've hired a senior development planner. We promoted our planning technician to junior planner, and we've hired a planning administrator. And then, of course, myself. So we've got some capacity with our existing team to start work right away. We also have a consultant on retainer that if we need to use them, we will. And we will use that consultant until we can make a business case for hiring more permanent staff. And then, and we will, that will be the plan, is we will hire those permanent staff when we have a business case to do it. And we will use our consultant as sort of that relief valve until we get to that point. And in terms of transition, we could start this service next week. We're ready to help right away. I would suggest we have a little bit of a transition between your current consulting planner now and us, and that transition may look like a month or something like that. But I expect we'd be able to come in and be pretty effective right away.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, is our planner Tracy on? Tracy? Can we see you?
Yes,
There she
I'm
is.
here available for any questions that council may have.
Do you have any questions, Tracy?
No questions, but just to back up, I have had conversations with Matt and CAO Tracy, and we do have a transition plan in place on how to kind of pass the baton, and I'd have agreed that I can stay on to consult or answer any quick questions that the county might have. I definitely will be available to help in any way that's necessary.
Well, thank you for that, Tracy. This isn't going to affect your retirement plans, is it?
I have been, yeah, trying to scale things down. So this actually, the timing works out very well for me personally. So I appreciate all the support council has done in the past, and it's been a great 9 years.
It has been a great 9 years. We hate to lose you, but in my opinion, this is the best transition that we could hope for. So I also want to comment on the official plan. County just approved West Elgin's official plan. And I spent a lot of time reading that, believe it or not. And there's so many similarities in there that, why are we all doing the same work? Everyone, every 4 years. It's ludicrous. There are efficiencies here, I know it, and I think you could have a county official plan with on the back addendums for Dutton Dunwich and Southold and West Elgin and Malahide and run with one. That's my thought process on it anyway. And Tracy, you could comment on the work and the cost of putting together an official plan for Dutton Dunwich. How long did it take you? And it's an incredible amount of work.
Absolutely. For us to do the last OP and 5-year zoning review, it took about 1 to 2 years for each document to go through start to finish. But I think you'll see that actually you may be able to go through a process faster because Matt will have a really great team put together, and there'll be a lot of collaborations with different roles, and like Matt mentioned, there's backup when someone is away on holiday or sick, and then there's some succession planning as well. So you may actually see efficiencies that way. And I think for the taxpayers of Dutton Dunwich, they're going to see some efficiencies as well, because you'll no longer have a 2-step process for pre-consultation. You'll be able to combine processes, and your taxpayers will see that application will go through its process much faster and more streamlined. So I think that there'll be some benefits there as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything further from council or staff? Nope. Yeah.
Go back to the GIS, because I think you said there may be some cost savings on. I was confused if there really was going to be for us here.
Through the mayor, part of my analysis for the fee included a certain amount of GIS time dedicated for each application type. Because when you do a report, there's map creation that needs to be done. There could be some GIS work on the back end. If you're amending your zoning bylaw, for instance, there may be a schedule that needs to be created and added to the bylaw or to the mapping. All of that takes time, but my understanding after speaking with our GIS staff is that there is an existing contract and between Dutton, West Elgin, Southwold, and you have a dedicated GIS person already doing that GIS work. So it would just be a matter of us collaborating with your GIS staff and just making these requests, and then we could reduce that out of the cost of our overall estimate.
Okay, I want to comment on our OP as well. We can now proceed to have it approved as of today. The thing holding up has been signed and it's put to bed, so.
Great.
And there's, like you said, a lot of changes that the province has brought down, so there'll be some work on our official plan.
Yeah.
Okay. And how will that play out, Tracy, while you're still here? What do you foresee in that? Getting our official plan to the county and approved?
Are you referring to an official plan amendment that is currently in place right now that we're settling through the OLT?
Yes. Yes.
So that official plan has been, yes, approved by the county, was appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal. It was a land swap, just a mapping exercise. So as soon as the settlement is submitted to the OLT, they will make a determination and make that official plan amendment force in effect. And then we would just have the mapping updated, and then we would be able to use those new land use maps in our daily application procedures. So that is very quick. There isn't much to do at our end. And then there'll be another overall comprehensive review because the PPS has just been updated back in October 2024. The county OP will hopefully be approved shortly. And then you'll go through and roll those two documents into the local OP, or merge it into the county OP somehow, maybe in the future. And that process might take, 8 to 12 months. You'll need some public consultation. And then the county, I guess the approval authority would be the county or the ministry. So that'll sort of be another process that Dutton Dunwich will need to undertake.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Thank you, Blaine.
Could we get a revised update on the cost? Just so that we kind of get a better handle. We've
Absolutely.
talked about some figures here, just so we really know.
Yep, we can, so just so I'm clear, I'll revise that estimate to remove one of the policy projects. Would you like me to keep in or remove the administrative costs?
We haven't quite figured that one out yet.
Okay, maybe for the time being, I'll keep it in.
Yeah,
And then I'll go back through and also remove the GIS costs as well, and then I'll send you that revised estimate.
okay. Everybody good? Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Blaine. Safe travel home. Do we need to put you up for the night?
Is there a gas station towards the 4-road? Just that one?
Right there.
I thought so.
Yeah. Okay, and thank you, Tracy, for joining us.
Pinball Road was pretty good.
The ones we came across were just like.
I mean, there was a couple of blow-over spots, but they weren't too bad when I came in.
Okay.
I'll,
Thank you very much.
I'll check in the morning, see if you made it.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, this was a long time coming, but I think we can make this transition readily. Okay, where are we? I gotta figure out. Done all that. Okay, let's go to number 8 on the agenda. And that is the CAO Treasury Report and the council remuneration. Go ahead, Tracy.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is just the annual report that has to be presented. It just shows council's salaries and anything it was paid for conferences and things. So if there's any questions. Pretty standard report.
I see none. Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the CAO treasurer titled Council Remuneration 2024, dated January 29th, 2025 for information. All in favor? And that's carried.
Item B is the property tax receivable update.
This is also a report I bring annually just to show council where we're at with our tax collection. So, if you look at the provincial risks, they think we're low, but if you take out the fact that we have already paid the school boards and the county theirs, we are actually at high risk. Although property it's a priority lien, we still could get our taxes, but we're not really in the business of taking people's houses, so we need to keep an eye on that. We do, work with the residents to collect money. So if there's any questions.
Questions? I know Sherry's working hard on that one. We spoke to her the other day
I
about
think
it.
we have, at the end of the year, we had 2 properties registered for tax sale.
Okay. And December 31, 2024 unaudited.
Yes, so
financial
these are unaudited, so there's still a bunch of accruals to be made and but just kind of where we're sitting when I ran the report the other day. If there's any questions?
Go ahead.
Just a couple of quick questions. The arena board, I see we had a 29,000, that must be
Yeah, we haven't got the capital invoice yet, so that'll still have to be accrued. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
okay,
Yep,
so
yep,
that'll be, that'll probably be
yeah.
63,000 or
Yep,
something.
yep.
That will be accrued to the
Mhm.
reserve, will get us pretty close to what we need, not much left to raise. And the other one I noticed, I could have missed it, but I didn't see where the 100,000 we put into reserves for working capital has been allocated yet. Last year's budget,
For,
didn't we agree to put $100,000 into reserve for working capital in last year's budget?
under the arena?
No, just in general funds, I think we.
Oh, that would be in the admin budget, so
Okay.
it'd be part of the, yeah,
Sorry.
sorry, okay, I thought I missed an arena one, so sorry. Yeah.
Questions I had.
Anything further?
I'll just make a note of that, make sure we did it,
Mhm.
but yeah.
One thing stuck out to me is very well done, first of all, and good job of budgeting.
Well,
Coming in,
we haven't done the year ends yet, so.
I know, but as of this and unaudited, looks pretty good to me. Because in past years, there's been some big surprises, and I don't see any here, so, okay. Move on then, if that's all there is. Questions? Clerk Tara, please.
I've just got two resolutions here.
Yep.
So moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the CAO treasurer titled 2024 Property Tax Receivable Update dated January 29th, 2025 for information. All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Droulard, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the CAO treasurer titled December 31st, 2024 unaudited financial reports dated January 9th, 2025 for information. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. And we have 2025 user fees, water and wastewater. And James, I believe that one's yours. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so what I've brought forward today is the user fees and regarding water and wastewater collection and includes connection fees and admin fees and such stuff as that.
Everybody's seen the numbers. Are there any questions from council? I was actually surprised that we didn't have to go higher.
Well, we're undergoing, as you know, water and wastewater study right now,
Yeah.
rate study, so the fees, especially the connection fees, it did increase significantly. I sat down with Ryan McGann and the water department and we looked at South Wold and we looked at West Elgin. We've come in the middle for now.
Okay.
I know that with West Elgin, for their connection fee, it was at 1,300 before their rate study. And when Watson did theirs, they recommended it be increased upwards to 10,000. They felt that was a little steep to hit all at once, so they are now at 5,000 for theirs.
Okay.
They just have one connection fee though for any size of service, so.
Okay.
We sort of looked at like say South Wold and sort of tried to come in the middle of South Wold and West Elgin and
Mhm.
that's what we came up with. We have to add an 8-inch service for our development out there with the food land. There really is no way to determine if that's 100% accurate, but we're hoping after the water and wastewater rate study that we'll have a more accurate pricing. So we're hoping that we've come again somewhere close to what it will actually be, so.
Okay, thank you, James. Excellent report. And we did have to put a 6-inch service. We never had that before either. And it has been paid. We had one already on that, so all's well. Anything further from council? Okay. Please.
Moved by Droulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the deputy treasurer titled 2025 user fees, water and wastewater dated January 29th, 2025 for information, and that council approved the proposed changes to municipal user fees as outlined in the report. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Tracy.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, well, all council was forwarded that email from Dylan last week. You know, the municipal act sets out the power to enact these bylaws, but they also have to be followed. If we were to waive his, it would be called bonusing, which is illegal. He doesn't fall under the any of the exemptions in our bylaw. So we need, you know, obviously, Sandy's waiting for an answer. If he wants to do a formal complaint, it can come to council. He has to prove that we did something wrong and then it go to a tribunal. But we just need, you know, to give him an answer because Jackie needs to know what the total fees are and where we're going with that. So at this point, council just needs direction, or staff just needs direction from council on what you want to do, sorry.
Okay, it has been billed, the development charges, and until it's paid, the building permit will not be issued. So that's where we're at, and as far as I'm concerned, our hands are tied. So what's the will of council? He does have an avenue that he can take. I see no option here. Any comments?
I have read that legislation as well, and I don't really think we have a lot of options. I think we need to tell him that and go on his life, and if he wants to apply, I guess he can. It's one of those unfortunate things that happened and he wasn't aware of it, but I don't think we did anything wrong.
Okay. Council, just nod ahead or something, comment.
Yeah, I also took some time to read that legislation, and I don't think there's anything there for us to look at.
Council have, or staff have your direction? Okay,
The only thing I will just add, just make sure, like, we formally do it in writing or do it like not in an email or whatever. Like, we can do whatever, all different methods. I don't really care, but it's got to be done professionally. So
that's the message.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just one quick comment, and I would be opposed to doing a resolution, so staff has some backup.
On this item right now?
Like he's asked for it to be waived, and then I think it would help them dealing with Sandy, that it's not
Okay.
just them doing it, so. I just should not make that
Pull
motion,
something together.
but I'll support it.
We'll give Tara a minute or two here.
Oh, I'm almost done.
Just pause for a minute. Not even Nora?
He's operating under there. Well, I'll see it and we'll go with it. Okay. Gonna go moved by Drulard, seconded by, who's next? Loveland.
No,
That the,
I'll support it, but
I'll second them.
okay, seconded by Dreyfus that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich direct staff to proceed with charging the development charges for the commercial development at the corner of Pioneer Line and Curry Road owned by Dutton Land Holdings. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Okay, one other thing, I have directed Tara to do a doodle poll and call a special meeting of council next week. So she will give you some options. And I would prefer it as early as we can get it, so that'll be coming forward. Next, under new business, I thought we should recognize a prominent citizen of Dutton Dunwich, Jenny Phillips. who has long been a champion of our municipality and played a role. I believe she was on the PUC for I don't know how many years, and she was always there to make a donation to whatever fundraising cause or anything in the community, and more than generous. And I just think I have a few ideas. One of the requests was no flowers, but a donation to the Horticultural Society or the library. I suggest if council decide, we can do them both, but we'll make a decision. I also think that she was an incredible artist. I have a couple of her prints at home. And I think we should, as a municipality, find an appropriate print or a work of art from Jenny and find a spot to prominently hang it. And that was my idea. So I'm open to suggestion from council.
Are there any paintings left? Great, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Hanson, and that's very kind of council, and I appreciate all the thoughts and considerations. It's been a bit of a rough time, but there are some left. We've brought them all back into the estate and accounted for them. Once the family has gone through them and picked which ones they want, which was Jenny's wishes, that they get the first choice, there will be some available. I'm more than happy, once they're available, to share what's available and talk to the family members to see if Dutton Dunwich could possibly have one of the first picks to be able to do that for her.
And to purchase one.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you.
All right, we'll leave that in your hands. And where is council on the donation? Preference? Somebody say something. Go ahead.
I'm thinking that if we were going to hang the photo, the library might be the place for it. And so perhaps the donation to the Hort Society might be, but I'm not opposed to donating to both, so.
Is there an amount? Like a standard?
The municipality doesn't have any policies on that, so it would be an amount set by council.
Okay. What do we do? It's the thought more than the monetary, I think. Gives staff direction to do something.
This is just a thought, at our economic development, we haven't come to council with it yet, but we have a tourism or, the silhouette project that we're working on that may fit into this, and, maybe there's something we could do along that lines, contribute to one of those. And that would be a long-standing, our idea is there will be a QR code put on all of them, and it will tell the story of the community or the silhouette or whatever the message is. So council could consider that. And we could tie that in with the Horticultural Society, because we could tie that into a flower garden, or we could put that into something that means something to a multiple group of people. We could put it in the flower garden at the library. Like, there's all kinds of things we could do with it. But that's something that we're working on, and Deputy Mayor Loveland's well aware, and Clerk Tara is well aware of our plan and our hope for that project to come to fruition. So give that some thought. So
Just a thought I had, maybe it's time to do it, not only for Jenny, but for Dave as well.
Yes.
If we could do sell it for both of them. And, you know, he's been a town crier for a long time, so.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good time to do it.
I think it's great.
So could we just punt that over to you for now?
I was
Yeah.
just gonna ask if we could just leave it, because I know you're
Well-
not gonna let it sit, but we don't have to make this decision right at this moment.
Great, okay.
So we can come back with some costs and then what, we could even link it to a bit of our budget, but we can make it worthwhile.
Okay,
Yeah, for
let's
sure.
do that.
Yep.
So we've got the artwork taken care of by Corey and you're on the other thing. Very good. It's the right thing to do. Okay, we are down to announcements and Tracy, the floor is yours.
First announcement, we did not get the grant. I think you probably are all aware of that, unfortunately. Second announcement, I'm announcing my resignation effective February 28th. It has not gone unnoticed that the position of CEO is a waste of taxpayers' money in this town, as council constantly oversteps the boundaries of council operations. My job was to serve all 152 residents and make sure the tax rate is affordable and the community better. I have no interest in placing Band-Aids, and Dutton Dunwich is in a mess, and continuing to piecemeal or hide the problems while encouraging adding to them, as well as ignoring staff and consultants that are hired for their professional opinions, is not something I want to be a part of. So it's been a joy working with staff, and I'm gonna miss them.
Okay, Tracy. Let's move on. Go to proposed bylaws. Clerk Tara, the temporary borrowing bylaw.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that bylaw 2025-05 being a bylaw to authorize temporary borrowing to meet the current expenditures of the municipality for the year ending December 31st, 2025 be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And we have, they're the same, but we'll do them separately. Medical center agreement for Dr. Kamar. Now, has everyone, they've had access to the agreement. We all know what's in it. And I would call for a recorded vote. Please, Tara. I don't think we need to beat this thing up anymore. So I will let council. But okay. Go ahead, Tara.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that bylaw 2025-06 being a bylaw to authorize and enter into a medical center operations agreement with Dr. Ahmed Kamar and the Corporation of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich at 156 Curry Road, Dutton, Ontario, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Deputy Mayor Loveland. Councillor Pemberton.
Yes.
Councillor Droulard.
Yes.
Councillor Dreyfus.
Yes.
And that's carried. You don't get a vote until it's a tie.
Say that again.
You don't get a vote until it's a tie, but
Okay.
I can do mayor hence.
No,
No.
no. Okay, on to the next one. Medical center agreement for Dr. Sharman.
And would you like a recorded vote for this one as well?
Yes, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Droulard, that bylaw 2025-07 being a bylaw to authorize and enter into a medical center operations agreement with Dr. Peter Sharman and the Corporation of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich at 156 Curry Road, Dutton, Ontario, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Deputy Mayor Loveland.
Yes.
Councillor Pemberton.
Yes.
Councillor Droulard.
Yes.
Councillor Dreyfus.
Yes.
And Mayor Hens.
No.
And that's carried.
Okay. Council knows I have the documents and they will get signed tonight. Okay. And then sent to the doctors. Let's take a break here, okay, before we go into closed.
Do you want to move into closed and then we
Yeah.
can take a break?
Yep, let's do your work first.
Moved by Drewlard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich now moves into a session of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 6:05 PM in accordance with section 2392 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001, chapter 25, for discussion of the following matters. Personal matter about an identifiable individual, section 2392B of the Municipal Act, for medical staff. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, well, let's take 5.
Good to go.
Good to go?
All right, moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that bylaw 2025-08 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, the future meetings are there in front of you, and Tara will reach out and poll to see when's appropriate or when everybody can make it next week for a special meeting. Okay, well, she'll send a note out and respond to it. Okay. Last one.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drewlard, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich closes at 6:38 PM. All in favor? And that's carried. Just stop. Yep. Yep.